name is Sharon Passarellie. They call me Sherry. I'm a vendor at the Junque Drawer in Salida, Colorado. Wonderful new shop that we've opened. And today we're going to talk about Steiff animals and teddy bears. Margaret Steiff was a German lady who had started a company in 1893. She was an invalid, and the only thing she thought she might be able to make money at was to sew. So she started with a toy felt elephant, and that became such a hit. The company is still in business today. Margaret Steiff made the first teddy bears after Teddy Roosevelt had an encounter with a real bear and he wouldn't shoot it. So she decided to design some Steiff bears for people. So the first bear was made in 1903, and it was a rod bear, which meant it had rods going down its body and across its shoulders. The only way you can detect that is by having an x-ray on it. After that, then she made other bears that were a little simpler made, and one of them, the way we can tell how she made these bears and if it was a Steiff, when you look at it, it's going to be straw stuffed. As you can see right here in the little part of the pad, there's straw inside. So an early bear is straw stuffed. It'll have shoe button eyes, which she took off of old shoes. It has a center seam down this one, which is one of the rarest, because they used up the edge of the fabric with the center seam. So only one in a few hundred bears were ever a center seam. It also has a large hump on its back, and so that's a sign of an early bear. An extra long arm indicates a bear, even large feet. The stitching on the foot should, for a Steiff, have three on one side and one on the other. So even the nose stitching will tell you it's a Steiff. A lot of times they started out life with a button in the ear. That is their trademark. And mothers often tore those off because they were afraid the child would swallow them. This button here in this ear is original, and it's a blank button, which tells us what generation of bear this one was. The cinnamon color, which is the tan, is kind of a reddish tan. This one I assume we would call just a cinnamon, but there's also other shades of beige that they had done. They were the most common. You'll find those most often. The rarest is going to be a white bear is a rare color. This one has his little button as well, and black is the rarest of all. They did not make black bears because children were kind of afraid of that particular color. So the only time they really went into production of black bears was when the Titanic sank in 1912. They made 40 bears for the survivors of that collision or that disaster, and they were given to the survivor children. Those bears are very rare. The way you can tell a Steiff bear, this one is not, it's just a black bear by another company, is that it'll have a red piece of felt behind its eye, behind the shoe button eye. But this is the same color that it would have been. This is probably a Knickerbocker. One of the other American companies tried making black as well. The Steiff animal is always marked with a tag in its ear. It will have a piece of fabric telling the number of the item and where it was made, and that's underneath the little button in the ear. The metal tag will tell you what generation of toy it is if it's still there. They also made a chest tag for it that's either on the chest and maybe the string is still left, or it might be as this one is on the collar. But that shows all the original tags they came with. 1904 they started making the first tags. They were an embossed elephant. In 1905 they were a blank button, and this particular one here has the blank button. That will date it for you. In 1905 to 1930 they started marking them with the word Steiff with a line under the two F's on Steiff. In 1948, they made a blue painted button. In 1950, they made the Steiff word with all capitals. In 1956 to the 60s and further on, they also made them with all raised letters so that you could tell. So look for a string tag, look for the little holes where the button was kept in the ear, because so often they were taken out. So you can see the two little holes in this little rabbit's ear. This one here is a very small miniature bear, and it's actually still jointed. The head will still move. All the Steiff had jointed heads so that you can move their head or their arms, or they're bendable. This one's still got its little Steiff button and little remnants of its string of its tag as well. The oldest bears and animals are all marked with the word made in Germany. After 1921, that was the requirement. The law was to mark things made in, and then the country of origin. So they started doing that in the 20s. And then in the 40s, in 1946 to 53, they put the words U.S. Zone Germany on them because they were made still in Germany, but then by then the World War II had happened and they were using U.S. Zone for marks. Later they became made in Austria. So that will help you tell how old your piece is if it happens to have its string or its tags. They also use different fabrics in different times. This particular one here is made of velvet. It's a Mickey Mouse, but it's a Steiff, and they use that for some of the special things. They didn't always use velvet in the early days, but they did. Most of these are going to be made of mohair, which is a type of wool. It's very durable. It has a wonderful feel for children, and they use that for the long. In fact, they use it today. They also used plush, which you'll find I don't have any examples here, but you'll find them. They're kind of a softer fabric. In the 1950s, they went to a latex rubber for some of the parts, especially on the little figures of animals. They put a little rubber latex hands and feet, sometimes even the face, and they didn't last very well. So you'll see they kind of deform through the years. They aren't very, that was not a practical material to use. This little one is dressed as well. They dressed some of the little animals and added little things for candy for them. In the 1960s, they began airbrushing, so they would airbrush a color on. So this tells you when this was made, 1960s. Steiff made all sizes of animals, from the very smallest miniature size to the very large studio size. That would probably be 4, 5, 6 foot tall. And those were used for displays in many of the stores. They also made dolls. This is an example of one of the early dolls. He still has his button. It's on the back of his ear, and it is the word Steiff on it. You can identify a Steiff doll because they have a center seam in the felt. They also have very large feet, so they would stand by themselves, and they were known for their design of having a large nose. They would have had shoe button eyes in the beginning. They made whole little villages of all the people. They dressed them. This is a felt dress. So you can see some of the little designs and some of the extras they put into it, and they made the little mohair hair as well. So the dolls were made from 1902 to 1925. They also made character collectibles. Of course, I've shown you the Mickey Mouse. They made him in 3 sizes. Here's Minnie Mouse. She's felt, he's velvet. She has all of her tags on her ear. There was an orange tag in the 30s. So Mickey Mouse was designed in 1928, and by the 1930s they were selling so well that Steiff designed some Mickey Mouse toys for them. Here is another comic character that they designed. This is a hand puppet, and it's Felix the cat. It's made of mohair and has shoe button eyes. They also made what we call Skittles, which would have been a set of like bowling pins, and each little character was like a rabbit on a little tipping base so that you could play with them on the floor. They had ride-on toys. There's a small example of a horse on wheels. They made musical toys so that you could push down on the toy and make some music. They made whole villages with little wood backgrounds of buildings, and they made circuses as well. Thank you very much. I hope I've educated you a little bit on Steiff. I hope you come and see us at the Junque Drawer. We'd love to have you come in. Thank you.